Thank you for joining us for another episode of Experience, Strength, and Hope podcast. My name is Catherine, and our host Tony will be joining us shortly. Our goal is to bring stories that make you laugh, smile, and even cry, but most of all, give you hope. Please don't forget to support us by subscribing to our YouTube channel and following us on Spotify, Amazon Music, and Apple Podcasts. Again, I'm Catherine, and I hope you enjoyed today's show.
I'm going to begin this recording by discussing something that happened to me in the late 90s, my wife and I, in Chicago, Illinois, the city that I was born and raised in. We had traveled to Chicago to pick up her nieces who were possibly going to state custody. So we had to go there and meet with the Department of Children and Family. So we drove all the way overnight to Chicago. And when we arrived in the city, we didn't go anywhere. We didn't go to my mom's house. We didn't go eat. We didn't grab anything. But we went straight to 45th, 43rd, and Federal, where the projects are. 18 stories tall. If you don't know, they're not there anymore, but if you don't know anything about them, you can always just Google Robert Taylor Stateway Homes, down State Street and Federal Street, just for blocks or miles. Projects, and they were torn down years ago, but they weren't torn down before this happened. So we went there, and granted, I never hung around the projects in Chicago. The way the city is segregated, not just between races, but it's segregated in many other ways, even within the black communities. Segregation or separation exists. And so I never was one to go around there, really. I just never did, and was told not to. I can even remember back in the day, I had a girlfriend that lived in the projects, and I would ride home with her on the bus and would not get off, because she said, don't get off around here. She said, go all the way downtown, get off the bus and get back, because you can go downtown and transfer and get back on the bus. And I would do that. I'd ride home with her, get off the bus, and ride back. So my wife and I arrived in the area of Federal Street, and I had a white Thunderbird. It was pretty new. It was almost brand new. And as we were coming down the street, there's a bunch of guys in the street, and we didn't know who they were. To be honest with you, they looked like they were up to no good. They looked like gangbangers. They were dressed, like kind of hood. And people say, well, how do gangbangers dress? The different way, because I already told you we got different kinds, sex, culture difference, and different separation in Chicago. And so you recognize who is who, and you recognize if somebody around your neighborhood or somebody you don't mess with. You make around certain people you just don't mess with. Mind your own business. So we'll keep going straight. And I try to go around them, and they were all in the street looking at us and stuff, And one of them turned around, and his hand bumped my mirror, and they started hollering, get out of the car, stop, get out, pull this car over, And my wife was saying, go, Tony, go, go, go. And so I got ready to floor it, and they came out with nowhere with guns and everything. Scared me to death. And so at this time, I didn't know who they were, but I know who I thought they were. And they yanked my door open, what you doing around here? What you doing? What you want? You tried to run us over, all kind of stuff they were saying, hollering at us from areas. I could say probably about 6 to 8 of them. And one grabbed me, pulled me out the car, Caucasian guy, about my height, a little bit bigger than me, grabbed me and was choking me like this, and had a 9mm to me. The other one had a 9, on that side had a 9mm to my wife, and I panicked. I thought I was dead at that point. I didn't know who they were. All I remember, I know I saw a little Carhartt symbol on their jacket. That's all I can ever remember to first closing. And I was looking down. We're trying to tell them what we were doing. Now, at this time, we don't know who they are. We thinking we were out to get robbed, shot, or something. And I was telling them, hey, we coming to pick up something. We coming to do this. Well, what you doing? You tried to run us over. And they start going through my car. Not ever asking, can they search my car, but start going through my car and going in there. And I told them, I say, it's on the dashboard. We had a letter telling us about what we need to do first, going to pick up these kids. And it was from the Department of Children and Family Services. And this while they're still choking the heck out of me and got a gun on me. Grabbed the letter, looked at the letter, and let us go. Oh, we sorry. We thought we were doing something, and told me that my car matched the description of a shooting that happened around there earlier. And all while this is happening, I can see from across the way, over sitting on the outside of the project, a bunch of ladies looked like they were older than me at that time. Tell them, just let that man go. Leave him alone. Them people ain't doing nothing. They knew we weren't from around there. A lot of times people know you're not from around their neighborhood, around their area or city by the way you talk, act, carry yourself, your dress and things. They knew we wasn't from around there. This time, man, I'm shaking so bad. I'm panicking. I'm scared. I thought I was going to die. Looking at my wife, they got knives pointed at her, got guns right here in my neck, choking me. Let us go and talk about, we thought you were this and that. And, never said we apologized or anything like that. So we left. I was so panicky, I didn't even see my mom that visit. Went and got the kids, went to the Department of Children and Family. I didn't even get out the car. Kids got in the car. I drove straight to Kansas. Didn't stop nowhere. I just wanted to get out of the city. And that was my perception of what my city had become just by not gangs and violence, but by the police. I always heard things about the police. People even tell me when I would visit Chicago, don't be riding around at night by yourself. Don't be riding around, doing this late at night, not so much of just gangs and violence, but also the police officer pulling you over, And granted, I'm not going to say, I'll never tell you that all police officers are bad. But I'm not like some people who will tell you that all police officers are good or believe all police officers are good just because they have a badge. Having a badge doesn't make you a good person, but only your heart and your personality and your upbringing can make you a good person. Who you are makes you a good person. That badge is not going to change your personality unless you change it. You decide to change. Having a code of ethics and all that and raising your right hand and say that, that's not going to change you. You have to change yourself. And that can be from a preacher to a politician to a police officer to a prostitute. All of that is determined by who you are and who you decide to be, not who you say you are and what you represent. Like, I'm a congressman. I'm a politician. I'm a preacher. So, no, a preacher would never do that. No, but it's who you are. So I say this to bring you to this point because I know a lot of people don't like to talk about, some of my own friends don't like to talk about, when it comes to the fact of racism and police brutality or involvement with the police. Granted, I grew up seeing police take people's drugs in Chicago and let them go or rough them up or do crazy things. I also saw gangbangers and local citizens do crazy things. So when George Floyd was on the ground and the police officer had his knee on his neck and the man was pleading for his life, calling for his mama, I didn't look at it as what they're doing to that black man. I just looked at it, what is they doing to that person? I could hardly watch the video, even though I did. I watched it. I seen it. And all it did is cause a little bit of anger in me, but a lot of sorrow because I remember what happened to us. And I knew within myself, that could have been me. Every time I see these things happen to individuals, whether they're black, white, or whatever color, and it comes through the form of law enforcement, it brings back that feeling again to me. Because when I left Chicago that day, my thought was that all police officers are bad. It wasn't the F the police that they say, and it was just like, I got to get out of this city because these police officers in this city are crazy. They tried to kill me, or they would have killed me. What if I would have made one move? What if I kept on driving in Florida and they started shooting at me? What if I would have kept driving and I bumped one of those police officers or hit those police officers because I thought it was gangbangers and we were about to lose our life? What if? It was so many what ifs in there that I could have lost my own life. So when I see this happen to someone else, it makes me think. And until something like that happened to you, you can say what you want to say about racism and acts of violence against African Americans. But until you experience it, you don't know nothing. You're going off of what someone else's opinion is. But until you've been in that position of fear, or you've been attacked, or you've been abused, or you've been harassed just for turning a corner a different way, you don't know. Months before that, I had got stopped in St. Louis on my way to Chicago in that Thunderbird with 30-day tags on it. And the tags, not 30-day tags, it was the tag that you have. They switched my tags over, so it wasn't a 30-day tag from my old car to that car, and I got stopped. And when my tags did not match my old car, which I was allowed to do, you have 30 days to transfer it over because I had just bought that car. All legal, all papers in there. I got stopped in St. Louis. They say I was speeding, and so his focus was not on speeding anymore. It was what I may have in the car. What do you have in the car? What do you have there? Why do you have there? Why that? I had my daughter with me in the back seat. All these questions thrown at me to try to convey and confuse you. But I was legal. I said, call my car in. You can see this is my car and it's registered to me. And so when little incidents like that happen to you or to me, to a person, you start to build up this idea of what police brutality, police abuse, police judgment of how black people are, what we think. You start to build it up in your day. Like, all police may be this way, or all these people are just out to get me. Law enforcement is crazy because you see it happen every day. Certain communities, you don't see this every day. Out here in Kansas, you don't see this every day. In Chicago, I used to see this stuff every day. So you can go off of what you do. You keep telling me about how to grow wheat and where Toto and Dorothy was, then I'll tell you more about the city. Because I know that I experienced it. You experienced this, I experienced that. But until you come to understand, until I understood what certain things was in your community, I formed the opinion. So until you experience or know what happens in my community and be open to understand it, don't say nothing. Keep it to yourself. Keep it amongst your family dinner. But I know and I experienced it. So when that happened to George Floyd and everything blew up, things just went haywire. People were looting everywhere. People were protesting. First, they were protesting because it was like people were saying, enough is enough. I've had enough. And that's what it gets sometimes. People say, well, why do you guys have to burn your neighborhoods down and burn up stores and you don't even have anywhere to shop now? Why do you got to do this? Because they say the unheard rage of a person is through acting out and bringing attention through protest. And sometimes that protest get out of hand. And so when I saw them looting and burning down places, I say, I understand their pain. I understood their pain. Everybody else was just saying, oh, these black folks are just acting a fool. They just doing what they've been taught to do. If you could just remember, if you go back and read some of the things they said that were happening, but it wasn't just black folks. People were protesting all the way from United Kingdom to America, to everywhere. But people were saying enough of enough. Why? Because they showed what happened to a man on the ground begging for his life. And if you don't have any compassion, most people, when I read people saying something, well, he was probably high anyway. He was drugged up. The police didn't kill him. That meth and that cocaine or whatever he was on killed him. He shouldn't have had a fake $20 bill in the first place. He was already high. He was up to no good. Look at his history. Look at his past. Look at his record. He was already a criminal. So what you're saying is that because he's a criminal, he's allowed to die. He had a history of drug abuse. So a lost life is nothing. He was probably going to die anyway from cocaine. Now, I'm not saying that this is what you guys were saying in the media. So you wonder, why do people act the way they act when these things take place? And it's because systemic racism has been taking place for years. All of a sudden, everybody want to act like this stuff just started happening with George Floyd. They want to act like it just started having police problems with George Floyd. But in 2020, it all came to a head for me and the nation or the world when they saw this man pleading for his life. Now, I'm not condoning burning down your city, looting, killing. I don't condone that at all. But I do feel the pain of the people, and I felt the pain of the people. 5 years later, 2025, it still hurts me to think about it and to watch what happened. Or how someone can do that to another human being. I watch you guys and people get upset because a dog has been tied up to a tree for too long, and you call the police and animal control on your neighbor because the dog has been tied up to a tree in the backyard and it's 80 degrees outside. Or the dog doesn't have bedding in his doghouse, so I'm going to call the police. They are just so cruel to animals. Oh my God, they left their dog in the car while they ran into the store. That is terrible. It's pitiful what they're doing to the animal. But you can't understand or feel the pain when a man has his knee on another man's neck and he's pleading for his life. What resistance was he showing that he couldn't have let that man up? It was other officers around just watching. You know why they didn't do anything? Because it's normal to them. People are always saying, well, why didn't the other officers do anything? Because it's normal. This time it was just caught on tape. It's nothing that hasn't happened before. I don't have anything against the police before you say that. I have family members that are police officers. But like I said, all are not good and all are not bad. But when we see something like that happen back in 2020, it stirs up anger and rage in people. What is wrong with us saying that we need to come together then? That's what all these DEI programs started. Back then when Walmart, Target, Amazon, all these companies started making statements on TV or through website about, we stand with America and we are against systemic racism and all this stuff, and then they pull back. As soon as they say, hey, look, we ain't gonna support you with money no more for this. Oh, well, we can't do that anymore. That's 5 years later. But that's when all these programs started, even on my job. Well, they decided that they wasn't gonna make a public statement, but we were able to start a diversity, equity, and inclusion group. And I was part of that group. And I wanted to be a part of everything I could during that time, whether it's marching in the street peacefully or marching in my own community, to let people know that, hey, we got to do something about this. We can't continue to let this go. And most of it was about to learn each other. Like I said, I grew up in Chicago. I stayed in my neighborhood. I didn't go on the west side. I stayed on the south side. Now I see how good the west side is. I went on the north side a lot. I went on the north side quite a bit, but not on the west side. I didn't know much about other neighborhoods and communities in Chicago other than what I saw on the news. And so we judge them by that. So if we want to get past our own biases, we have to learn other people. And that's what these diversity and inclusion groups or equity and inclusion groups were set up for, is so you can learn each other, respect each other's culture, respect each other's religious rights, gender, everything. To not just respect it, but learn. Because what you're saying may not register to you that it could be racist or stereotypical. Let me give you an instance. I was at a company yard sale we had once. And this young lady, this woman was doing different things that worked for us. And so I was trying to buy these speaker systems, for my job, and whatever. And the lady said that we were going back and forth with it. And so one of the other ladies, now this is right after George Floyd murder, she said, well, he's over here trying to Jew me down. And he looked around. I said, oh, my God. And that lady said, and one of the other supervisors said, no, that's not right. You can't say that, And she was like surprised, like, why I can't? Because she's used to saying that. She doesn't know it's offensive to another person. I do. I grew up in Chicago where they had a neighborhood, well, not a neighborhood, a little shopping area called Jewtown, because they were saying people were trying to Jew you down on the price. And that's what that neighborhood was, but it's not called that anymore because people find out it could be offensive, just like saying Indian giver. You don't say that. So it's little things that we may say that we don't realize. A black person may say it, and we don't realize. A white person may say it. So we have to learn it. And the only way we're going to learn it is through teaching these things to each other. That's why the DEI programs were formed, so you could learn and we could know what's offensive. We took all kind of training through my organization just to know that people did not know. Even my own CEO was shocked at some of the things we experienced in our life. And that's just one incident that I experienced in Chicago. It's other things that's happened to me, but I want to go on like I'm building a case against everyone else to prove that you or someone else is racist or can't be racist. No, I'm not doing that. So I want to go on. That's why I wanted to give you that one incident. But my new series is on 2020. So it's going to be a lot of other things that happened in 2020 that I'll talk about. But that was one of the most eventful things that happened. Because during that time, we were faced with COVID-19. People were scared to go out. People were under a lot of stress and everything. And I'm not saying that's a reason to act out and to do these things, but it was so much stress and so much pressure on people, fear and everything during that first part of the summer in 2020. So I want you to continue to listen. And if you want to judge, you can. They say listen, but we don't judge. If you want to judge, you can. Leave a comment. And that's one thing I want to say to you guys. When you look at my podcast, don't wait till you see me in Piggly Wiggly's and the grocery stores and everywhere and say, hey, I watch the podcast. Leave a comment. Like, follow, subscribe. It don't cost you a damn to subscribe to my podcast. Some of y'all subscribing to stuff on TikTok for $4 a month and they ain't doing complete nonsense. It's free to subscribe to my podcast. And I'm going to only give you the truth with that in my heart. If you don't agree with it, I welcome your opinion. I welcome your comments on it. So leave a comment on YouTube or Facebook, wherever you see my podcast. I'm Tony the Mayor, and I continue this series on 2020 of experience, strength, and hope. Here's my dog again. He wants to get into the picture here. So this is Louie. Say hi, Louie. That way. Turn around. Yeah, you don't want to do it? Say hi. This is Louie. Experience, Strength, and Hope podcast. I'm Tony the Mayor. Be blessed. Be strong. But most of all, be real. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to another episode on Tony the Mayor podcast, Experience, Strength, and Hope, 785-307-4662 on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts.